What is up, family? You're listening to Living Beyond the Dream podcast, where we're having practical conversations to take the dreams you have for your church and yourself and turn it into a reality. My name is Mike, joined by my main man, Tyler. And man, we are blessed. We are week 21 of the podcast. Every week, man, it's just been getting better and better from hearing from you. All the love you guys been giving us, the shares, the comments. Thank you. Keep it up. It really does bless us, but it also helps us get that reach out. So when you rate, when you review, when you share, it really just helps us reach more people and bless more people. And I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have today because I think it's going to be valid for everyone. Whether you're in ministry or not, this is a very important subject you get wrapped around your heart and mind. So let's talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah, well, this is a topic that can honestly make or break your entire organization, whether you're in ministry or even in the secular world. But it's communication.
Come on.
And, I think as leaders of volunteers in the ministry world, burnout is a topic that we hear a ton about. But to dive into how we combat burnout, I think is such a powerful message.
That's right.
So today, that's what I really want to dive into and spend a lot of time on. So for just starting out, Mike, can you tell us what burnout is and why does it need to be on the radar?
Well, a burnout's exactly what it sounds like. You burn out.
Yeah.
You're kind of burning the candle at both ends of the sticks. You have a lack of margin, and you feel like you've exerted every ounce of yourself, right? It's when you disperse, you give out more than what you're actually taking in. And for too many of us, that becomes the way we have really built into this. And there's this real sexy model right now in the entrepreneur world, right? Hustle, grind it, sleep 4 hours a week, and never watch, anything but read and grind and hustle and live it and eat it and breathe it. And family just needs to suck it up because you're going to burn to success. That was a little exaggerated. But that's really kind of what the thing is right now. Problem is that's not sustainable.
Right.
And you're literally asking yourself, hey, I will literally sacrifice everything for my selfish dreams.
Yeah.
And sooner or later, that's going to hit me too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sacrifice myself. So you've got to understand the idea of burnout is when you are got margin in your life, you're not going to be burning out. When you're not pouring out more than what you're taking in, you're going to have enough stability and sustainability to have success for the long term. We're not in the short game.
Yeah.
We're in the long game.
Have you yourself ever personally experienced any kind of burnout?
Of course I've experienced burnout. I mean, of course I've went through that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've experienced it many times in life. I've went through moments when I was planning the church, and there's seasons whenever you're going to have things in your life where you're having to work a little bit harder than other seasons. But the problem is they're supposed to be seasons.
Yeah.
They're temporary.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to be long-term. They're not supposed to be forever. They're supposed to be something that you understand is for a season. And I've had moments where seasons have turned into a permanent realization in my life where I was working 7 days a week and I was putting in all the work and I was putting all my family on the back burner and I was dealing with every stress myself and I was feeling like every answer had to come from me and everything I had to deal with, I had to be the solution for.
Yeah.
And over and over and over again, and to the point where I felt like I had nothing left to give. My marriage was suffering. My children were kind of drifting away from me. And I was at this point where I didn't even like who I was or what I was going through because everything was just stress because I had nothing left to give.
Yeah.
Every ounce of me was given.
Yeah.
And it was a burnout in my life.
Yeah. What would you say are some warning signs to look for of burnout?
Well, warning signs are definitely whenever you look at your calendar and there's not margin in there. When you look at your calendar and you feel like 7 days a week is not enough.
Yeah.
When you think that you can't ever catch up, is when you realize you're headed quickly to margin.
Yeah.
And then a lot of also is some of the personal things you need to look at. Like if you're irritable all the time, if you're always frustrated, if you feel like there's no joy, then you know that you're at a place where you're burning out. If there's tension in your marriage or in your relationships, if you feel like every little thing's going to set you off, those are signs that something's not right.
Yeah.
And there's a disruption on the inside that you've got to really start figuring out. And so you've got to be really strategic with yourself. And this is where a lot of people struggle in life, is we don't really like to have an honest evaluation of ourselves.
Yeah.
We like to have an honest evaluation of other people. We're really good at judging other people.
Right.
we're not really good at looking in the mirror and going what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're good at justifying why, because we don't normally do things out of a evil or a negative spirit. We tell ourselves I'm fighting for something good, right? I'm a workaholic, but I'm trying to provide for my family, right? Or I'm trying to build this church, or I'm trying to build this dream so in the future we'll be better. And all those are noble reasons. But if you lose your family in the process, it doesn't matter. If you lose your sanity in the process, it doesn't matter. If you lose your joy in the process, what's the point of having this thing for the future?
Yeah.
And so you got to really look at yourself and ask yourself, is this sustainable? And am I creating healthy margin? What's my calendar look like? What's my emotions look like? What's my relationships look like? Those are great indicators on burnout in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's super important to take a look inside of yourself. What would you say are some signs of people that you're leading? What are some warning signs to look out for?
Well, here's what you've got to be. As a leader, you have to care more about the person you're leading than the production you're getting from them. And too many times we look at them like they are servants instead of people we're discipling.
Yeah.
And that's a big indicator of a healthy leader and an unhealthy leader. It's a great indicator of a leader or a manager.
Yeah.
A manager is managing your schedule to fit around the production you can produce.
Yeah.
A leader is trying to lead and disciple you to health and greatness inside of your life. And so with that means you have to look at your people and the health of your people. That has to be the very first thing you look at. That has to be your litmus test, because the health of your people determines the health of your organization and the health of your departments. And so if your people aren't healthy, guess what? Your organization is not going to be healthy.
Right.
So you need to, when you sit down with your people, disciple them on a personal level.
Yeah.
Not just on a production level. Not just on how they're producing for your church or your ministry, but how are they producing fruit in their lives, in their relationships, in their families. And so what you got to do is ask them the right questions and the personal questions. You got to get real with them. And this doesn't happen when you meet with them occasionally.
Right.
This happens when you meet with them consistently.
Yeah.
Because when you consistently meet with them, there's a trust that gets formed, a camaraderie that is being built, that you now become someone that they can actually be honest with. They can tell you when their marriage is struggling. They can tell you when financially they feel like they're at the end of their rope. They can tell you when they feel like they're always frustrated, or they don't have joy, or they feel like they're kind of just spinning out of control, because now there's this camaraderie built, and they know that every time that you're with them, you're caring about them as a person, not just the talents they offer you. And so when you lead that way, it shifts the dynamic within your team, and you can spot burnout a lot quicker because you care to heal them and help them, not just use them and abuse them and then discard them.
Yeah, creating that culture of just that safe place for them to come and say, here's how I'm feeling.
Exactly.
Is massive. What would you say are some best practices to create that culture? I mean, obviously consistency, like you just said, but are there any actions that people can put into place to create that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell people a lot of times is that we need to start being goal-oriented or set, action steps for our teams. And what I say is, like, set goals. You need to set career goals. You need to set personal goals, relational goals, and you need to set, spiritual goals.
Yeah.
And so set some things that you want them to accomplish in your department. That's good, man. We should be growing, but they need to be having some personal goals. What are things they're working on individually? They want to lose weight. They want to get their finances in order. They need to be setting relational goals. Are you dating your spouse? Are you spending time with your kids? And then you need to set some spiritual goals. How are you thriving spiritually? And when you're doing that, these are practical ways that you can sit down with those people and keep them accountable.
Yeah.
You said you're going to be dating your spouse every week. Are you?
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, why not? And then you can start breaking down the excuses that's keeping them from thriving in that relationship. Well, you said you were going to start saving. Why are you not?
Yeah.
Well, where is your money going, right? You said spiritually you're going to read X amount, or you're going to pray. Are you carving out that individual time? No. Well, why not? And when you set strategic goals with people, you now have tangible things to evaluate and see if there's margin in their life for health. And too many times we just want to sit down and go, how you doing?
Yeah.
And what's the response?
Yeah.
Good. Well, of course that's what the response is. That's what normally everybody says. If somebody says, how are you doing? Nobody ever stops and goes, I'm horrible right now. My life's falling apart. That's no. But when you sit and say, you said, or we made a plan, we're going to do this, and you're not doing this, you're actually helping them from hitting burnout or helping them from leading to destruction, because now you have a plan towards health, and you can keep them accountable with that.
That's really good. I think a lot of times as leaders, we get caught up in the 90-day review mindset where it's like, well, I check on them every 90 days. But like what you just said, actual building of relationships. I mean, you're building something way deeper than just that. How are you doing? That's huge.
Powerful.
That's awesome.
Powerful.
So how would you go about addressing someone that might be burnt out? Like one of your team members?
Well, I definitely feel like it's a problem whenever you catch them in the burnout phase.
Yeah.
Because now you've got to do some really big discipling and restructuring in their lives. It's better to catch something early than late. Mm-hmm. And so now some of you leaders are listening right now and you didn't catch it early because you haven't been doing the things. And now what you have to do is have some honest conversations and be like, hey, this isn't right or this isn't healthy, and we've got to really readjust this and make some priorities different because I care more about you than the job.
Yeah.
And I think you got to be honest with them and let them know you want them to win. And that's tough conversations, and there's going to be some huge shifts in the way they lead and the way they structure their schedule, which is important. But you also need to start developing the habit that you can catch warning signs early before they actually become a problem.
Yeah.
And this is where too many leaders mess up in, is they don't really deal with things until they see the large smoke. Instead of understanding, I felt a little heat coming off the match, they wait till it's a forest fire to deal with it. And if you can catch things early, you can adjust things quicker, and they can actually walk in health and thrive better and faster. But if you wait too long to address or deal with things, now there's a lot of mess that has to go up and be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Now there may be a marriage that's on the rocks. Now maybe the kids don't even know them and they've got to build some trust. Now maybe they're heading towards bankruptcy in their finances, or they've kind of wrecked people in their departments because they're emotionally spent, they're frustrated all the time, they're angry all the time, they're frustrated, and they've kind of hurt people and rubbed people the wrong way. Yeah. And now not only have you to put out the fire, but now you got to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
So you need to start understanding the importance of dealing with burnout early and start looking at the warning signs now, because if you wait too long, there's a lot more cleanup in the long run.
Yeah.
So start addressing things and keep people accountable. Don't let excuses get people off the hook.
Yeah.
Don't let them say, well, I don't have time or blah, 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 or I'll try. No, you need to say, I better start seeing this. Like, this is the expectation I have. Because if you are not healthy personally, you cannot be healthy as a leader and a minister in the church. And you've got to let those expectations be clear, and you got to keep people accountable to those.
Yeah. I think it's super powerful, and you just kind of talked about it. But, we talked about building that safe place where, your people can come to you and say, hey, here's how I'm feeling. But it also works in the flip as well. Yeah. Like, you're also building that relationship to where you have an open door to go to them and say, here's what I'm noticing. Yep. And it's not met with frustration or anything like that, but you're building that safe place.
Well, and I will say this. You need to learn that if you want them to have margin in their life, you've got to learn to have grace when they need margin. Because, see, sometimes as leaders, we want the cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
We want you to have margin, but we also want you working every chance you get.
Yeah.
We want you to have margin, but we want to be able to see that you're hustling and grinding to the point where there's no room for margin.
Yeah.
So you can't get both, right? You got to understand that production can still happen in margin, but when they need time off, you got to have grace.
Yeah.
When they need to go somewhere, you need to have grace. When they're saying, I'm feeling a little stressed, can I have a day or so? You need to have grace. Like, you need to have grace for the margin that you're actually asking for.
Yeah.
And too many times as leaders, it sounds good on paper.
Right.
We don't apply it in real life.
Yeah. You also hit on something else that I think is super important, the domino effect of burnout.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't address it quick, your team as a whole could suffer because it's a cancer. I mean, that thing's spread. Have you ever experienced anything like that? Or
yeah, I mean, I've experienced it where I have hurt my team because of my attitudes and my very quick temper, and the fact that I've damaged relationships or hurt them. I didn't permanently damage them because I have a phenomenal team that's had grace on me and love on me, but moments where they probably shouldn't have had to have grace on me because I had to fix it. I've had moments with my marriage where my wife thought I didn't care about her or the children, and I had to really restructure that. Yeah. And there was a lot of tension in our marriage for a long time because I didn't have margin for her. I had margin for myself and my dreams, but not margin for my wife. And that's the most important human relationship I have, yet
Yeah.
she never felt that way to me.
Yeah.
She felt like she was my side project, not my main responsibility to treasure her and love her like Christ loves the church. And so with that, I've had to go through and fix a lot of those things and heal those. And so you need to learn that you've got to take responsibility and accountability for your actions.
Yeah.
And your team will love you more for that. That when you go to your team and say, you know what, I shouldn't have done this, or I was wrong in this, or I'm going to be better, it's something that they triggers. They go, you know what, they're not ignoring my feelings, or they're not thinking they're perfect, but they're real people, and that they promise to be better. They're going to have grace and mercy on you. And then when you start showing them that you're better, then all of a sudden there is a trust and a bond that's built that, hey, if they can grow and be better, I can grow and be better.
Yeah.
And they actually care about me, not just themselves. That shifts the dynamic relationship. And now there's a bond that now is deeper than you've ever had before.
Yeah.
Adversity and trials create a camaraderie and bond way much deeper than you would ever imagine when you come out on the other side with health through it, right?
Yeah.
And when we can go through this together and I can admit where I was wrong, it strengthens us better. And it's a reminder to myself, I won't go back there.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel that way anymore. I don't want that tension anymore in my life. And I'm going to have red flags and checks in my spirit when I start feeling myself drift towards that.
Yeah, that's good. And I love the theme of what you just said. And I think that this is super important for people to get, is that burnout does not have to be permanent.
That's right.
I think a lot of times as leaders, we can look at it as like, oh man, if a team member is burnt out, I'm going to lose them. But it can be a temporary season, and God can restore that.
That's right.
So I think that's huge. In closing, talk to the leader that might be burnt out right now, or feeling like they're overwhelmed or in over their heads. I mean, what would you tell them?
I would tell them it doesn't have to be your forever, like you just said.
Yeah.
And I would tell them that change can start right now. And you may think that you're too far gone, and you may think that you don't have enough time in your life, but listen to me. You can accomplish this.
Yeah.
And I'll end with a story like this, and I've probably said this before on the podcast, but it's always been a story that stuck in my head. Craig Rochelle said it like this once. He said, he goes, so many times we make the excuse we don't have enough time. And so that we tell ourselves that we can't accomplish, more on less. And he said, it kind of looks like this. You work 5 days a week, and it takes you 5 days a week to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
But he goes, you ever remember those weeks that you are going to leave early and have an early weekend, and you get off and you're only going to work 4 days that week, but somehow magically you accomplish the same amount in 4 days that it normally takes you 5 days.
Yeah.
Why? Because you set a deadline for yourself. And what you have to learn to do is not procrastinate, but put hard deadlines on your life. And you're going to find that you'll accomplish more in the time you've been given because you know that you have to get it done.
Yeah.
I've set hard deadlines in my life. I'm very structured and routine with my schedule. I get up early in the mornings to work on certain projects before anybody gets up out of bed because I set a deadline for myself, and I'm not on social media or Facebook perusing. I'm literally doing my work. I make sure that I have my sermon done every Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't have to preach it till Saturday night, but I know every Tuesday I'm going to have my first draft of my sermon done.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's a hard deadline. Because I have other things I have to accomplish throughout the week. And by doing these deadlines in my life, what do? Is I set myself up for success. So now I have margin because I'm not wasting.
Yeah.
And some of the greatest problems you have is because you wake up every day and you play the day by how it goes, right? I'm just going to shoot from the hip. I'm just going to wake up and see how the day goes. And time flies when you have no priorities. Your calendar, your schedule has to be your compass.
Yeah.
You need to set your schedule and live by your schedule and do not deviate off of it. And in that, you're going to find you're going to accomplish more and have more margins in your life for your family, for your friends, for your children, for the areas of your life. And burnout will not win.
Yeah.
Discipline's going to win out.
Come on. That's so good.
You can start that today.
Yeah. So good. And I just want to encourage you, if you're listening or if you're watching this, please comment or contact us if you need prayer for anything, or if you need, if you are feeling burnout, let us know and we can fight in those trenches with you.
Come on. Guys, until next week, make sure that you're subscribing. Make sure that you're on YouTube, you're ring-a-dinging that bell, never miss an episode. Yeah. Rate it, review it. Like he said, if you have any questions at all, hit us at tyler@bloomhere.org. I'm going to make him filter through all the questions because he's good like that. But until next week, we pray God's peace.